I think the biggest thing is oversharing lacks wisdom.
So in oversharing, what do you think that looks like as opposed to the vulnerability topics that we just pointed out?
I think two things come into play that can define something as vulnerability versus oversharing. I think one is relationship. If you don't have a relationship with that person, like what's your goal? Like, why are you sharing this? Like, what's your like if you share something with me, like we've done life together, like we've done life. So sharing with us, like we've built a relationship. Whereas if I go to someone on an unprompted conversation, that even if there's someone at church, like I met once or twice, and you start dumping everything I'm going through right now, like what's my goal there? I think the biggest thing is oversharing lacks wisdom, whereas vulnerability is done from a wise thing, right? Like vulnerability is brave, but it doesn't mean you don't have boundaries.
And I think part of it is also, is it possible that you are putting a burden on this other person that isn't ready for that burden?
I think that's super important. If I share something with you, I know it's something that you can handle. Like, it's, if you know, like, I've been open on here that like I used to struggle with like pornography addiction, right? But who I share that with, if you're someone that's like deep in the struggles of that in the moment, and I'm going through a struggling moment, there needs to be wisdom. Is that going to help you or hurt you? So like I think there's just wisdom throughout that. Like, are you sharing your testimony what God's done in your life, or are you just dumping everything? You're just trauma dumping, right? And I think it's also some of those things like we know, especially on the receiving end, very quickly you can feel like in your inner being the difference between like, hey, this person's being really vulnerable, or this person is like just dumping everything on you. I think a good caveat, I think a note I wrote down, like if you're not ready for feedback on what you're talking about, then maybe you're not ready to be sharing. Like that's the difference between testimony and trauma dumping. Testimony is like, here's what I went through and here's what God did with that. It's who the glory is going to, versus like, look at all the trauma I had. You should have people to share that with, for sure, and like one of those should be a therapist if you've got a lot of trauma. Like therapy is a great thing.